thing that I think I'm proudest about Buffy on is the fact that it just so accurately captures the show. I mean, I did not want to just half-ass a license, and Buffy deserved a hell of a lot better than, you know, some lame treatment. I'm James Goddard. I've been in the business a little over 11 years now, and most of my career I focused on fighting games. I just really like the Hong Kong happy slappy action. I was fortunate enough to get into the business at Capcom, actually, as a tester in coin-op, where my job description was move the cabinet around and count the coins.
Somebody beat you with a whole tree full of ugly sticks. What? No fearsome words about how I'm going to die in agony?
I mean, I couldn't work on a fighting game and there not be some crazy 15-hit plus combos in there. I'd have to go, like, you know, change my name and hide. But I didn't want to make the mistake I made on Weapon Lord ever again. So I absolutely had to make this as accessible as possible. So what you should expect, depth-wise, is to be able to pick up the controller, whether you're a beginner or expert, and just start moving it. And in 3D, this is definitely the best feeling, you know, most intuitive action fighter in 3D, because it does what you want it to do, you know. Goes the way she wants you to go, you know. It's not like Tomb Raider where you're sitting there going in tank controls, hey, let me line up on this, you know. No, it's just point that way, you go. It has to be that way if it's Buffy. Mash the buttons, you get cool combos, you know. I want to do something that all my friends and, you know, the fans of the Street Fighter series have talked about forever, which was, you know, fully 3D Street Fighter via like Final Fight, only in full 3D, free roaming, no targeting, you know, no targeting modes, just anything can happen, bouncing people off the walls. And that's kind of, you know, I stumbled across the opportunity to work on Buffy, and these guys were cool enough to give me a shot at it. That's how I got here, and we wanted to really capture the show correctly. So we basically took, and it required, to do it right, everything that a fighting game has in the coin-op. Like, take your best game in 3D, Dead or Alive, you know, Tekken, any of the Street Fighter series, well, not 3D, but take that and say, okay, well, I need all these features, but I need them to be sideways, so it's full 3D. And, oh yeah, there's going to be multiple enemies at once. Oh yeah, and there's stakes and weapons. Oh, okay, she bounces people off of walls. And the list goes on. You know, you watch the show and you just go, how could you possibly recreate that in 3D and actually make it accessible? So that's where we started, and you know, 2.5 years later and several platform shifts later, we're here and we're on Xbox, and we actually have accomplished everything we set out to do, and it was well worth it.
We originally started the game on the PC, and we were doing a fairly good job with that. We ran into some limitations for poly counts and for the sizes of our world. We wanted to have our world sort of as immersive as possible. We wanted to put a lot of detail into them. Fortunately, about the right time, the Xbox sort of came along, and we were able to sort of do everything we wanted to do originally for the game that we might not have been able to do on the PC. So sort of a nice blessing.
Usually Angel's following you around like a nuded pup.
What are you doing back in Sunnydale, Spike? We had a deal.
Sorry, love. Business is business.
The initial technology switch from other platforms was mostly just a shift in our way of thinking. It was a matter of saying once we were switched to Xbox exclusive, we could stop thinking about limitations built into other platforms. We could stop thinking about low-end machines, and it was just fixed technology at that point. So once we got that into our heads, actually doing the port work to get the engine running on Xbox went fairly well. I started development on the Buffy game about 3 years ago now. Initially it was not scheduled to be an Xbox game. That was before Xbox was even really on anybody's lips back then. So initially we started development of the engine on PC. So it's been a bit of a rough road converting from one platform to the next as the game development has gone on. But you know, it's given us a chance to take advantage of the latest technology, eventually coming to the switch to Xbox. That we can use high polygon count models. We make the game look how we always wanted it to look, that we never really were able to back when we were thinking of the game as a PS1 game. In terms of the overall Xbox capabilities, we're probably taking advantage of maybe half, approximately 50% of its rendering capabilities. Potentially, we could even get more than double the polygon throughput that we have right now. There are other areas where we're using the Xbox more fully. I think we're using its sound capabilities pretty far. We're doing things with our sound on the Xbox that I don't think can really be done on other platforms because the sound hardware is very capable.
The thing with Buffy was that I wanted it to be as close as possible to a cinematic experience as a movie gets you. And since the Xbox offered us so many opportunities within the audio engine to pursue these goals, it slowly turned into a reality. And it was a lot of grueling work. And the main thing was that I learned how to use the editor. So, because I created all the sound effects, I created all the music and everything, and then it was like, well, I want this stuff to sound like a film, and if I learn how to use the editor and place the stuff myself, then I can view that vision. That's one of the reasons that it took so long. I actually implemented all the audio and all the music into the maps, learned how to use the editor, and this afforded us to make an extremely interactive sounding, cinematic sounding experience that I think rivals anything that Hollywood could dish out.
There's just no talking to him.
All the music in Buffy is triggered, just like anything else. So if Buffy, in the editor, if it's set up that Buffy steps on a trigger, and that trigger forces, 3 vamps to come out that she has to kick some butt on, basically that same trigger, I'll piggyback off that and trigger an action piece to start as soon as she steps on this, right? Which will override the ambient tension piece that's currently playing. So basically it's a priority system. And as long as you stick to the rule that the ambient music that plays, in other words, music that kicks in when nothing's happening, that's just kind of spooky and scary, as long as you stick to the rule that that music has absolutely no rhythm whatsoever, that's just very sustained, and there's no da-da-da-dun, da-dun, da-da-da-dun, it's just all very, very, very sustained, then as soon as you step on a piece of action music that's going to trigger and start playing, that can have a load of rhythm. So what we said is, okay, all the action stuff's just going to be full-on rhythmic, and anything that's ambient will have absolutely no rhythm at all. Consequently, your segues are totally smooth. You don't have this jarring that, if the ambient piece has any sort of rhythm and it goes into an action piece that has a totally different piece of rhythm, well, then it's going to jar and it's not going to sound right. It worked out very, very well, and I hope people will pick up on the fact that absolutely everything's interactive. Mind you also, if a piece of action music in Buffy starts playing and you're battling with 3 or 4 guys, we'd have what is called a filter counter. That action music, as soon as you kill the 4th guy, that action music will then automatically taper off and fade out and go straight back into an ambient piece. And before you know it, you got something that pretty much resembles what you would do in a film.
My name is Chris Aguilar. I'm the lead artist on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I actually started with the company way back when, just a handful of people. My sort of goal was to unify the entire look of the game, make sure everybody was sort of keeping a certain direction that was carrying across the Buffy universe as best we could. We also were very fortunate in that we were able to design a lot of original content for the game. And because we are such big fans of the show and stuff, we did a lot of research and made sure that everything we designed, some of it fairly crazy and some of it would have never made it into the actual budget of the television show. But we did such a good job of integrating it into the actual universe that we're sort of allowed to run with it. So it's a lot of fun.
We spent at least 3 months, really looking into the Buffy series. I mean, I had watched it before, and I liked Buffy, but I became a true fan, actually, when I sat down and started at the first show on going forward. And we went through everything that we had. It took about 3 months to go through all the reference, look at where, Buffy, how Buffy fought, how she moved, what her attitude was. A key thing was figuring out, well, whatever move she doesn't do that we need, how would she do it? And kind of projecting out into, trying to get into Buffy's head as to, how would this character actually, do an elbow drop or something? Not that we put that in there, but so we spent 3 months there. Then we got hooked up with Jeff Pruitt and Sophia Crawford, who were actually the stunt team from Buffy at that time. I think it was season 3, and those guys are badass. And of course, they knew, where she was going to go. So we actually set up a mocap shoot, and Fox was really cool, and spent a grip on, setting that.